Hey guys, welcome back to Ben and Brewing's channel. If you haven't been here before, we do product reviews, tutorials, and we have a live chat feature on our website to help you through your brewing 911s. Today's video, we actually got our hands on a small countertop brewing system that's been around for a number of years. We're going to take a deep look at the Pinter Brew system. Let's check it out. All right, so before we dive into today's review of the Pinter, quick reminder, today's video is not sponsored by anybody, actually. It's actually sponsored by you. If you like the content that we provide and you feel like it gets you some value out of it, please feel free to like and subscribe, or we have a Buy Me a Coffee link down below. A couple of bucks, a couple of coffees our way really does mean a lot. It does go a long way to helping support our channel. YouTubing is not cheap, and it's something that we want to continue to do to bring you this content. So let's dive into our Pinter review. All right, so as I've mentioned before, there's a lot of countertop brew systems currently on the market, and the Pinter's been around for a couple of years. At first glance, it really doesn't look like kind of a premium product because it is made out of plastic. It is injection molding plastic, and it comes in all kinds of interesting colors, but it still doesn't look like a very viable option or something that would last long term. However, once you get your hands on it, it's actually really well built and very well engineered. Typical of most of these kind of all-in-one systems, the countertop brewing systems, you both ferment and serve out of the primary vessel. Now, what's unique about the Pinter is that it actually almost operates as a conical fermenter during primary fermentation. You actually put it in a special dock, a special stand that when the yeast drop out of suspension, it actually separates from the rest of the beer, and you actually end up pulling it off, ending with kind of cleaner and more shelf-stable beer when you're serving it. The other piece that was impressive, at least once I got my hands on it, was the tap system. Now, I think they've redone their tap handle, their tap faucet a couple of times, and in this version it is actually an engineering marvel. I'm not sure exactly how they do it because it goes beyond just not picking up the trub and the yeast or anything that happens to settle out into the bottom of your serving keg. It gives you clear beer pretty much until the very end of the keg based on my testing. It is an incredible feat of engineering, and especially the way that it handles the variable pressure of the Pinter, because there are no CO2 cartridges. You are literally serving it off of just fermentation pressure. All right, let's break down a couple of the parts, or really the brewing system that is the Pinter. The first thing you'll notice is the big black base that it comes with. That's actually the brewing dock. That is the part that helps to let the sediment and the yeast and things drop out during primary fermentation before you end up crash cooling it. Next is the tap and the faucet. The tap handle actually is a piece of metal, and it's got a great little snap-in feature for the faucet itself. It actually feels really good to pour beer out of the Pinter, and it feels very solid. It does not feel flimsy in the least. As I mentioned before, the tap itself is an incredible piece of engineering, the way that it is able to manage the different pressures that come out of the Pinter from when you first tap the keg, and it's under high pressure, to when the pressure starts to slowly drop over time. It really is absolutely amazing and minimizing foam despite the multiple pressures, and giving you a clear beer or sediment-free beer for the most part all the way to the last drop. The next feature on the back of the Pinter is the carbonation dial. Now, this actually confused me a little bit first because it's kind of opposite what you would think. If it's set to off, my first thought was that means the valve is closed. No, that means it's wide open. So keep that in mind if you're brewing with this, because if you have it set to off and you tilt it, it will leak any liquid that's in there, whether it's cleaning fluid, the sanitizer, or any beer. Dialing it up to 5 gives you the maximum amount of pressure retained into the keg. So you can actually somewhat dial in the pressure if you have a beverage that you want to have either slightly less carbonated or not carbonated at all, with scales 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The final feature on the back of the Pinter is the hopper cap. Now, the purpose of this is some of the kits actually have additional hop extract for additional hop flavor, or like a hop burst, or like a dry hop kind of an extract that you can add in the later stages of fermentation. We haven't gotten any kits yet that utilize that, so I'm curious to get my hands on one of those kits. Those kits do come at a premium. They are a bit more expensive because of that added feature, but it does give you the option to add some more hop forward or more flavor in the beer kits. All right, let's talk about the kits for a second that you use with the Pinter. They have a number of kits. I think last I checked, as of the film of this video, like 26 different types of kits between beer and cider and seltzer. Those are kind of the main things that they do. And the kits are probably some of the simplest kits I've seen in a beer brewing kit, especially when you're dealing with just extract. All the kits contain pretty much the same type of ingredients or bundles of ingredients. The first thing and the most important thing in there is the sanitizer, or the purifier as they call it. It's a single-step cleaner and sanitizer. And there's quite a process to go through and make sure that you're prepping your fermenter before brewing in it. Next, of course, is your yeast pack, because without your yeast, obviously you're not going to be able to ferment any beer, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Your kit will come with a package of, really it's a concentrated wort. All the brewing is pretty much done for you. The hop additions, the boiling, the mashing, the cooling, everything, and then they condense it down into sort of a syrup or a liquid malt extract. However, it is pre-hopped and contains everything that the original beer would have had in it. The last thing that would come in the kit, if it is included in your kit, again, this is optional. Most of our kits, or all of our kits that we've tested so far, have not had this in there, but it is the hopper. So it's a vial that goes into the back of the Pinter to add additional hop flavor or flavoring of some kind into your finished beer, usually in the later stages of fermentation, so you're not bubbling off whatever aromatics are in there. All right, so the first step when you want to brew on the Pinter is to follow their instructions on how to purify it, which is really just sanitizing it. And you definitely want to make sure as soon as you've tapped your last beer, you need to take the thing apart completely and make sure everything is rinsed and washed so that you can store it for a little bit and then be able to brew with it again. But the sanitization of the Pinter is going to be super, super critical, because you're not boiling any of these liquids. Everything needs to be sanitary, so nothing gets in there that can cause some funk or sour or something you probably wouldn't want to drink. There are quite a few steps with this, so make sure you're following them all the way through as you go through. And this is actually way more complicated than the actual brewing process itself. Okay, first thing you want to do is look at the back of your Pinter and rotate the carbonation dial to 5. This will close off the valve completely. Go ahead and remove your tap handle by just really pulling it straight up. It should pop right off. And then go ahead and take the front cover plate off of the Pinter. Make sure that your tap is completely seated and screwed onto your Pinter so that nothing leaks out as you're prepping and sanitizing. Go ahead and add your package of purifier or sanitizer to your Pinter. Make sure you grab a pair of scissors. I thought this had a nice little tear tab on it. It does not. Next, you want to add hot water, the hottest water you can get from the tap, into your Pinter up to the black fill line. And it's actually pretty easy to see because the bottom half of that inside keg is white and there's a black portion or a line right at the top. Screw the lid onto your Pinter, make sure that it's nice and tight, and then shake it for 30 seconds to dissolve all the sanitizer and make sure everything inside of your keg really is sanitized. Next, go ahead and add the brewing dock to your Pinter and screw it on securely. If you have difficulty doing this, as we did with ours, take a little bit of keg lube and kind of lube the inside lip where it comes in contact. That will help to make it a lot easier to put the two units together. Once that's done, go ahead and flip it over so it's resting onto your brewing dock. The purpose of this is to make the sanitizer fall into your brewing dock itself and to sanitize those parts and make sure they're clean. Once you've let it kind of sit in the brewing dock for about 10 seconds or so, put it in a sink or a tub, because the next part is where it's going to start to get messy. You're going to separate the upper part of the Pinter from the brewing dock. Some liquid will spill out. And then go ahead and dump the rest of your purifier sanitizer out of your brewing dock and put it aside. Keep in mind, rinsing is not necessary with this sanitizer. Next, you're going to take the carbonation knob on the back of the Pinter and rotate it to off, and then flip the Pinter over to allow sanitizer to drain through your carbonation lock. Once you've let the sanitizer run through for about 10 seconds or so, go ahead and put it back upright. Attach your tap handle to the tap faucet and pour about 10 seconds worth of sanitizer out of your tap faucet. Once that's completed, go ahead and take the lid off of your Pinter and dump out the rest of the sanitizer. And again, this is a no-rinse sanitizer, so you do not need to rinse it. Once those steps are completed, now you're finally ready to actually brew a beer. All right, so let's go ahead and brew up this beer. Step one, you're going to go ahead and take that carbonation knob that you've been turning off and on this whole time. Go ahead and set it to carbonation level 5. That way you're capturing as much carbonation during fermentation as possible and performing a pressure fermentation. Go ahead and add room temperature filtered water to your pinter. It's important that it's filtered or spring water of some kind. You want to make sure there's no chlorine in it because that can lend to off flavors in the finished beer. Next, go ahead and grab your scissors and cut open the pack of wort or the concentrated beer that you're going to be making and add it into the pinter. Next step, go ahead and add the yeast that came with the kit. Go ahead and put the cap onto the pinter and then get ready for a bit of a workout. You're going to shake this thing vigorously for about 2 minutes. This makes sure that your wort extract is completely dissolved in liquid. It's also going to kind of force the yeast to hydrate. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about forcing the yeast to do that. I know typically when you're pitching dry yeast, if you're not doing a starter, you sprinkle it on top of the wort and you allow it to kind of absorb the water at its own rate. By doing this, you kind of run the risk of killing off more yeast than probably intended, although the yeast pack did look pretty large, so I wonder if they overpitched to accommodate this or to account for this. Once that's done, go ahead and attach the brewing dock to your pinter, flip it over, and set it in a cool, kind of a darker area of your home. Try to let it ferment between 61 and 77 degrees. Because it is a pressure fermentation, you should have a little bit more leeway as far as temperature goes, so if you're up in the higher range of near 77, it should be totally fine. The fermentation schedule for this beer is 7 days of primary fermentation and then 7 days of conditioning, which I believe is done in the fridge. And that's to help the CO2 kind of carbonate the beer and to let it age a little bit before you actually serve it and drink it. So after 14 days, let's see how it does. All right, so fermentation is complete. We are now ready to taste the Space Hopper IPA. It was interesting when I poured it, I was a little too aggressive on the tap handle. I'm not used to it. What's interesting about the pinter is that it's actually kind of like a variable tap handle. I'm used to the ones where you have to open up all the way, otherwise they'll foam. This one isn't like that. You can actually slow the flow a little bit to minimize the foam itself, and it actually doesn't make it worse. So again, the engineering of that tap handle and that faucet is really, really cool. Let's get into it because I am needing a beer today. For sure. Cheers.
Cheers. The color, first off, is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I think of a beer. It drops very bright.
It's real pretty. It's got a great color on it. What are you getting in the nose?
I'm honestly not getting a lot of hops, which you'd imagine.
I get a little orange peel.
Orange, yeah.
All right, let's give it a go. It's got the hop bitterness in the finish. I get creamsicle, orange,
Mandarin orange, Mandarin, tangerine. Mandarin or tangerine.
Why is it gotta be Mandarin?
It's
definitely, it's not a taste bud wiper like a lot of them where they just, it's like an Imperial IPA where it just...
I would honestly not even think of this as an IPA.
More of a pale?
Yeah.
Now, I believe they make an option with this kit to use that hop stopper, whatever you put in the back of the pinter to add additional hop aroma. I bet that would be really good with this topic.
I wonder if that's...
This is incredibly approachable. So going back and looking at the description of the beer kit from the Pinter website, it does say it was a double IPA, double Imperial.
It's not a double.
Like a 7 IBU or 7 ABV.
Yeah.
And very intense hoppiness. It did say malt forward and orange forward, kind of forward flavored, which I'm getting. And the color notes and the little cloudiness, I mean, that all matches. I just don't, it's not as intense as a double IPA,
no,
in my opinion.
I think of IPAs being very hop forward, which I know that's controversial because people don't necessarily like the super in-your-face hops, but I'd expect some hop flavor.
Yeah.
From beer, I don't get any hop flavor from this at all.
I think the orange flavor we're getting, I think, is from the hops, but it is not intense at all. The Sierra Nevada is considered a pale ale, and it's hoppier than this. Don't get me wrong, it's a delicious beer. This is a great kit. But yeah, this is not as intense as I thought it would be, but it is clean. It was well brewed. It's obviously very, very simple. The fermentation was easy. I'm shocked at the tapping process. It kind of explains why there's a premium on these kits. These kits are expensive. I think this one was like $32 or $35 for a 12 pack. That's quite a bit of money. If you're not going through a lot of beer and you really want something that is super fresh, have it on your fridge and serve out of it, this is a really great option. I mean, this kit is very delicious. Pinter always has deals and things. I mean, they'll give away a free pinter, which is like a $100 value or something, or they'll sell you, or it's $50. You know, they have sales all the time. So it's a great way to try one out, try one of their kits and see, is this something that I'm interested in doing? So I definitely think there's a new market, as far as someone doing it long term, I could see someone throwing one in there every once in a while. Let's say they got a party coming up and they want to brew something up for the small gathering and they don't have a lot of space and they just want to brew up one of these and say, yeah, I brewed this. I could see that too.
Okay.
Definitely not something that, unless you got the money for it, to do constantly. If you're brewing a lot in this, like multiple times a month, you have multiple pinters, and then maybe people out there that are doing that, I would say, buy a kit and do it more from scratch. Learn a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong if you don't want to do that, but I would definitely encourage them to learn more and get some more equipment and maybe dive a little bit deeper and have some more control. But overall, the kit's delicious. I mean, it's kind of idiot-proof, really.
It was really easy to do.
Thank you so much for watching our first brew on the Pinter. Let us know your thoughts on the Pinter as far as the expense goes. Is it worth it? Do you brew on it yourself? Have you found any good deals on it? Have you actually been able to brew a non-Pinter kit on it? We'd love to share that with our viewers and see if that's even a possible thing. Catch you later, my friends.